With that, I'll turn it over to Frank Delson.
Thanks, Christy. Again, I want to welcome everyone and thank you so much for joining us tonight in our first stream restoration webinar. It looks like we have over 70 participants. We're very excited that you're all joining us, and we really look forward to hearing your thoughts about stream restoration. So before I provide some kind of introductory comments, I want to take the opportunity to welcome and introduce Adriana Hochberg, who is our acting DEP director. And Adriana.
Thanks so much, Frank. Good evening, everyone. Thank you for taking time out of your busy schedules to join us this evening. As has been mentioned, tonight is a listening session, and we look forward to hearing from you, your ideas, concerns, experiences around stream restoration, really anything that's on your mind as it relates to the topic. So really look forward to hearing from you. Thank you.
Thank you, Adriana. So I think you all know stream restoration work has been ongoing for decades, and there's a whole variety of reasons for designing and constructing these projects: infrastructure protection, protection of private property, water quality improvements, and restoration of habitat and aquatic resources. At the same time that we're doing these projects, it's important to understand both the pros and cons of doing nothing in these highly eroded urban streets. DEP continues to work to ensure and design projects that provide maximum environmental benefit while trying to minimize the short-term impacts of access and construction. These are construction sites for a short time period. This includes understanding that these projects cannot and should not be done in a vacuum. They need to be supported by upland treatment of stormwater closer to the sources. The ability of local jurisdictions over the last 10 to 15 years to implement stream restoration projects to meet MS4 permit restoration requirements has caused the proliferation of stream restoration projects. Stream restoration projects, furthermore, can generally provide cheaper MS4 credits than stormwater ponds, green streets, rain gardens, and bioretention facilities. I know that many of you are aware of the increasing number of scientific studies that have looked at both the impacts and the benefits of these projects. And in Montgomery County, we're like everyone else. We're learning as we go. This information is helping us guide both our ongoing and future efforts. Each and every stream restoration project is unique. All these projects are not the same, and the goals will vary based on stream corridor conditions, watershed conditions, and the concerns that are raised by community and property owners. So tonight, we're hosting the first in our series of webinars to try to better understand both your concerns and questions. As you offer your questions and thought, I would like you to think about what top action you would like DEP to take to improve the way we're doing stream restoration going forward. If you could pick just one, that would be great. And also, we would love to know topics that you would like to see us address in future webinars. Again, thank you so much for joining us in this important forum, and we look forward to listening to you. So I have the honor of introducing Sadie Dresser, who's going to be our moderator. Sadie's the Vice President of Programs for Restoration at the Chesapeake Bay Trust. Sadie joined the Trust in 2014. She leads the restoration programs that include implementation projects, research efforts, some of those related to stream restoration, and innovative county watershed and citizen engagement programs. So again, Sadie, thank you so much for helping us out tonight and throughout this webinar series. It's all yours.
Great, thanks so much, Frank. And thanks to Montgomery County for hosting the webinar series. And thanks to all of you who are taking the time to be here tonight. As Frank said, my role for tonight and the webinar series will be to facilitate the discussion. As Christy said in the beginning and Frank said again, tonight we're all in listening mode, and this is just really a space to hear your thoughts about stream restoration. A little bit about the Chesapeake Bay Trust. We're a nonprofit organization and we focus on environmental education, engagement, and restoration. And we do that largely by making grants. Our mission is to engage and empower diverse groups to take actions that enrich natural resources and local communities in the Chesapeake Bay region. So a little about us. The purpose of this meeting is to hear from Montgomery County residents about stream restoration, and this will help guide the content of the remaining webinar series. We have a large audience tonight, which is awesome, and we have several Montgomery County residents who have signed up to share their thoughts with us, about 6. And we will go first to those of you who have signed up ahead of time, and I'll ask each of you to state your name, then the floor is yours. I'll be keeping time, and I'll let you know around 4 minutes that you have about a minute left. So please keep to your time so it'll allow us to hear from everyone who would like to speak tonight. After we hear from these speakers, I'll ask the group, is anybody else would like to speak if there's time? And in Zoom, you can raise your hand, or if you're just on the phone, we'll allow you to come off mute and register to speak. At that time, we value each of your time and look forward to hearing your comments. I ask that we are all respectful for each other and open to learning and hearing from each other tonight. I am really looking forward to hearing all of your thoughts. So let's get started. I'll be taking notes throughout and I'll do a quick summary. Okay, so I have the 8 speakers and I've checked that they're all here, which is wonderful. And the first speaker is Lauren Hubbard. So Lauren, if you could come off mute, please state your name and then share your comments, and I'll be keeping time.
Yes, thank you. My name is Lauren Hubbard. So my comments, actually, it's interesting, the introduction by Frank Dawson. He has touched on a number of my issues and concerns, but I noted that he mentioned these projects occur in highly eroded urban areas, and I'm not sure that's always the case. So that's one thing I want to point out, that I get the problem of highly eroded urban stream areas, but I think that we have to be extremely careful going into these, that we only even contemplate this in places that are truly in that really highly degraded situation. And that we furthermore emphasize the upstream and upland treatment concept. That I've talked to a lot of different people about this, and I think almost all practitioners agree that would be a better choice. I think the issue has to do with money. And so then we're back to the MS4 permits and how y'all get the money to do these projects. And that is a huge problem. So possibly a redo of the entire system here is what's needed. So really, my one big ask, I'm going to cheat. I'm going to say we need a more holistic view of the whole thing. So I can't pinpoint one item because I feel like the system is sort of broken. That's my bigger view of this. What drives these projects? How do they get decided? You know, how they're implemented, and it seems to me that the upland treatment is a really minor afterthought on these in the most part, if at all, from what I've seen of the projects I've looked at. I'll add to that I think I still have a little time, that the maintenance after the fact is a huge problem. I've worked on this. I have a trust, Sadie knows I have a trust grant that I've worked on to do a low maintenance implementation of a project. And, you know, it needs to be really thoughtfully done in order that the invasive species don't just take over, which is so frequently the problem. I am a Chesapeake Bay landscape professional. I've been seeing a lot of practices that look really bad. It's a really common problem all over the place, not just here in Maryland, but, you know, I used to live in New York. It's all over the place. So getting these right when they go in is crucial, and it's going to cost probably a little bit more money than what has been done in the past. But I don't think we're doing right by taxpayer dollars if we sort of just put a project in and let it go to heck. You know, that's not really the point of the whole thing. So I'm very concerned about that. These areas that get treated in many cases are sort of the remnant bits of wild space left in our urban areas. So I think it's even more important to treat them with the utmost respect. And if they're going to be restored or whatever you want to call that practice, you know, if you're going to put a practice in, it needs to be done so that it's really attempting to recreate the environment. You really can't recreate a natural space, but, you know, doing the best job we can. And it needs to be a little bit beyond just bottom line dollars, I think. I think we need to perhaps spend more money to get it right and make sure it's maintained and make sure that it gets done so that there's really a good system going in that's going to last and be better, you know, not just managing water, but be better for the entire ecosystem. So I think I'll leave it there. Thank you for listening and thank you for having this. I will make one comment about the registration process. I found it really confusing. I don't know if there's people who aren't on tonight because I didn't realize that they had to sign up for a speaking spot. And then they also had to, I didn't realize until minutes before that I had to also register. So that's a little bit of a thing for the future. If you can try to make that a little more clear or easy, that would probably be a good idea. All right, thanks.
Thanks so much for those comments, Lauren, and thanks for the feedback about the registration links. And you were great on time, so thank you very much. Appreciate that. All right, next speaker, Beth Forbes. I think we're gonna put you off mute and then the floor is yours. Just state your name for the record, please. When you get started.
Hi, I'm Beth Forbes. I've been a Montgomery County resident since the mid-'80s, and I've been a stormwater and water resources engineer about the same amount of time. I'm not originally from Maryland. I grew up in Cleveland, so I grew up with the Cuyahoga River catching on fire, which led me to a career in water quality. I've been a member of the Water Quality Advisory Group at Montgomery County, and I was co-chair for 2 of those years. I think continuing stream restorations is an excellent opportunity for the county to meet its MS4 goals. They are really among the least expensive options to get to MS4 credits, and they belong in the mix of BMPs to keep the costs lower and keep the water quality protection charge from being too high. I've heard information from DEP staff about the cost of green streets per acre, and it's about 10 times the amount of money per acre credit as a stream restoration. And some people have told me, well, we expect the green streets cost to come down as we do more and more of them, but I would think we would expect the stream restoration costs to come down as well. The staff time to manage the projects for stream restorations are lower than green streets because there's so many more things you need to look at with when you retrofit an area with underground utilities and overhead utilities, driveways, parking. There's many more issues to look at than a stream valley, which may only have like a sewer crossing or 2 in it. I think stream restorations can be designed to be stable without upland controls. That's a personal thought, and I'm sure a lot of people don't agree with that. But I think that the maintenance costs, maybe not for the invasive species, but certainly for the structural elements, as we get better at designing these, those should come down. And they would be less expensive for maintenance than the green streets that are spread out many places. And certainly as pond retrofits with the money that is needed to dredge those every couple decades. I think there are opportunities to create habitat with stream restorations that you don't find with pond retrofits and green streets. I want to point out one project in Gaithersburg that created 1.5 acres of new wetland area. So that's creating a lot more wild habitat that was never there before, that quality of habitat. So I think there is room for improvement with stream restoration design, because that's what science is, and stream restoration is a science. So as we do more of these, we'll learn more and we'll be able to improve them as we go forward. I like to make an analogy with medical science. I read this book last year, The Immortal Life of Henrietta Lacks. In the 1950s, she was a woman in Baltimore who went to Johns Hopkins for treatment for her cancer. And back then they would pack her full of radium and keep her overnight. And it didn't work, she died. But that doesn't mean we stop treating cancer. We've continued to treat cancer and have new treatments every year, and we get better at it. But if we pause treating cancer, we don't get better at it. And just like if we pause stream restorations, we're not going to be able to get better at those either. So in closing, I fully support DEP continuing with its stream restoration program. It's easiest to cite, it's the best value practice, and it has opportunities to restore the ecology of our county better than any other practice that can earn significant credits towards their MS4 goals. Thank you.
Great, thanks so much, Beth. Really appreciate your thoughts here. All right, so we'll move on to our next speaker, Evelyn Jacob. You're up next. I'll give you a minute to come off mute. And then just at the beginning, state your name and then start your comments when you're ready.
Hi, I'm Evelyn Jacob, a Montgomery County resident who is concerned about our climate crisis and who has had some firsthand experience with the need for stormwater management. We see rock run stream from the back of our house. It is badly eroded, and we see it rising and raging when there are heavy rainstorms. Flooding from the stream is clearly a possibility. However, the flooding we have experienced came not from the stream, but from the front of the house in 2019 during what I call the monsoon rains, when a flash flood came down through our side yard, lifting flagstones from several bottom steps of the walkway. So from the perspective of my yard, I care about and support efforts at stormwater management. But I also care about what happens to the environment as a whole in our county, in our country, and in the world. And I care about all people who are dependent on the environment for their survival as we face the climate crisis. I understand that stream restoration can be part of efforts at climate adaptation, meaning efforts to build resilience in the face of the effects of climate change, such as severe storms and drought. My concern is about the efforts at stream restoration that are not consistent with climate mitigation. That is, with efforts to reduce climate change. Specifically, I'm concerned about the removal of large, mature trees as part of the stream restoration process. As you know, and as is discussed in the Montgomery County Climate Action Plan, large, mature trees help reduce climate change by sequestering carbon. Large trees sequester more carbon than small trees, and it takes many years for small trees to grow large enough to sequester the same amount of carbon as the large trees they replace. Removing large, mature trees and replacing them with small trees, in my view, adds to climate change by removing significant tree canopy, and runs counter to goals in the Climate Action Plan to reduce the county's contribution to climate change. Other efforts in our county, for example, DEP's Tree Montgomery program, are working to increase the county's tree canopy. It makes no sense to me that part of the county is working to increase the tree canopy while another is decreasing the tree canopy by removing large, mature trees. I am not a stream restoration expert. What I want is for those who are stream restoration experts in the county to manage the county environment with the big picture of the climate crisis in mind. In other words, I want DEP's stream restoration program to find ways to address both climate mitigation and climate adaptation by not removing large mature trees. Thank you for this opportunity to share my views.
Evelyn, thank you so much for those comments. We really appreciate you taking the time to share all that with us. All right, John, if you're online, John Bullen, I'll give you a moment to get off mute.
Hello.
Just state your name at the beginning and then the floor is yours.
Yeah, I'm John Boland. I work for Rock Creek Conservancy, so that is largely the capacity I'm in here tonight. So to start with some prepared remarks. So Rock Creek Conservancy's mission is to restore Rock Creek and its parklands as a natural oasis for all to appreciate and protect.
John, can you pause for just 1 minute? I just see, yeah, the spotlighting. Yes, thank you. Just gonna give our folks behind the scenes a chance to spotlight you. Okay, go ahead. Sorry to interrupt.
No worries. Rock Creek Conservancy's mission is to restore Rock Creek and its parklands as a natural oasis for all to appreciate and protect. A significant part of that work is advocating for ways to restore past impacts on and minimize future impacts to Rock Creek, its tributaries, and the watershed. We've seen through bacteria monitoring that Rock Creek is more impaired than the Anacostia River, and we know that the watershed in Montgomery County is roughly 25% impervious surface. Stream restoration can, when done well and in strategic locations, help us to rejuvenate polluted streams by restoring their natural capabilities to manage pollutants and support life. This means increasing forest coverage to manage stormwater flow, adding more natural features like pools and riffles to reduce erosion, and other changes that help the stream flow more naturally and safely. A critical part of stream restoration is upland infiltration and runoff reductions. Changing the behavior of the stream helps it to function better as an ecosystem, but changing the quote unquote diet of what is coming into the stream from upland sources can make or break a restoration project. Without changing what is coming into a stream, a restoration project can end up as a Band-Aid more than a long-term solution. We're happy to see that DEP is committed to pairing stream restoration with increasing upland infiltration, since that will change what is entering the stream and how quickly. The Grosvenor and Stony Brook projects are great examples of projects done in very distressed stream channels that have been completed in ways that limit the number and the quality of trees taken. Additionally, we are delighted to see the county's commitment to equity in planning and allocating resources that DEP has made. We have yet to find somebody who doesn't love Rock Creek, and they all deserve to have a healthy, vital stretch of stream to appreciate and protect. As an organization that advances watershed health, we also appreciate the opportunity this session provides to hear from other stewards of Rock Creek about their views, questions, and interests related to stream restoration as part of overall watershed health. So thank you. We are excited to be here, excited to listen to y'all. And so far, it seems like people are giving great feedback. So thank you.
Great. Thanks so much, John. Really appreciate those comments. All right, we'll move on to our next speaker, Lynn Parsons. If you're ready, we'll give you a moment to come off mute. And then you can come on the screen, we'll spotlight you. Okay. And once you're ready.
I'm Lynn Parsons, and I have gone to visit a number of the restoration project areas in the county. And based on all the evidence I've seen to date, and that's my best reference, the term stream restoration is a misrepresentation of the actual outcome. I would describe it as open storm drain stormwater management that is aesthetically pleasing to the eye of many county residents, but usually at a cost of accelerated natural habitat destruction. I imagine that a majority of our county residents would not recognize the overwhelming presence of invasive species in our region. Many are purchasing them and planting them in their yards. I am able to identify them, and the restorations I have seen are rapidly becoming invasive species hotspots. Our struggling local wildlife habitat already has so many threats without using funds intended for its protection to accelerate its demise. The project locations that I have visited were no doubt already invaded with non-native invasive species, but there was still soil that had been undisturbed for decades and a riparian habitat with native plants and, most importantly, a greater abundance of mature trees. Trees are our very best carbon and stormwater sequestration tools. As a weed warrior, I've been working diligently to hold the line on the worst of the non-native species in the parks surrounding the current Stony Brook restoration. It weakens me to think of the probable work ahead. From what I know of the area and the locations within it that have had similar bulldozing work done in the past, I anticipate that the project underway there will result in a rapid regrowth of invasive plants that may well be beyond my capacity to control. I'm aware that the theory of the engineering is to recreate the natural water sequestration provided by the floodplains, but that floodplain will become a dense growth of invasives with the current techniques and no proper maintenance. I spend a significant amount of my time removing invasives in those woods, and I don't see any assistance from other volunteers or county staff in that endeavor other than the mowing the edges along Beach Drive. I find it hard to believe that the county will set aside resources to do the necessary maintenance, either at the Stony Brook location or in other locations where the projects have or will take place. It not only requires significant time, all growing season long, but also a knowledge of what is native and what is invasive. This knowledge is not quickly acquired. The project locations not maintained with the dedicated regularity will rapidly lose their ecosystem support value as the invasives take over. Most park visitors who see a lush green regrowth may be none the wiser. Unless something significantly changes about how these projects are executed and maintained, they will see a tidy, if artificial, creek bed surrounded by dense green growth, but the avid or amateur naturalist will find far less of any of the biodiversity that once inhabited these spaces. In my opinion, there needs to be more public education and outreach and incentives to replace lawns with native plants and trees. It's not just the rooftops and parking lots that are not capturing water at the source. Our grass lawns do a lousy job of stormwater retention, and we have a lot of grass. I really appreciate this opportunity. Oh, one point. A more sustainable investment would be in strategies that return the water to the groundwater system before it has a chance to overrun the streams. Please preserve what is still left of our best local habitat and save the engineering projects for that which is already non-productive dead zone. I really appreciate this opportunity to express my opinion and share my experience. And I hope in the subsequent webinars, we will also be provided with community input. I believe residents who know their neighborhoods best have valuable input for consideration as you present your plans for our better understanding. And thank you for your kind consideration.
Thanks so much for those comments, Lynn. And thank you very much for removing all those invasives and your hard work. There are a lot of engineers on the line, and I'm sure they're listening very intently to what you're saying. So really appreciate that. All right, next up is Marion Eddie. Let you get unmuted whenever you're ready.
There we go. Can you hear me now?
We can hear you. Yeah, just state your name and then the floor is yours. Yeah, thanks.
Thank you. First of all, I want to express my deep appreciation to Lauren Hubbard and to Lynn Parsons, who just spoke. I agree with everything they both said. And in fact, it would be nice if there was a way that we on the call could, if desired, get each other's contact information, like an email address, because I would love to know them and work with them. I am particularly concerned at I think it's not stream restoration here, it's stream engineering, it's stream bulldozing. And I think that we need to stop looking at a stream in a mechanical way as just a method of managing water. As people have said, these are ecosystems. These are incredibly valuable riparian ecosystems. And my concern is when you bulldoze them, how can you bring back the ecosystem that was there before? I mean, it just not only on what's on land, but what's aquatic. You're dealing with a lot of microorganisms, and it's like Humpty Dumpty. You break it, you don't even know how to put it back together as it was. You don't even know how to create another food web as it has. And so in terms of making a suggestion of what to do different, don't do so many. Do fewer of them, do them right. And like Lauren said, do them in places where the stream, you know, where the streams are already a severe dead zone. And I don't think that simply the fact that you have banks eroding is something to get the vapors about. I mean, I think you have to look at where structures are threatened or not threatened. I have a favorite walk along Rock Creek. I'm sure it's degraded. You know, there's pieces of banks of streams and they're caving in. But guess what? When they are allowed to meander and the trees do cave in or go into the stream, it slows them down. You know, to the extent that the purpose here is to prevent silt from getting into the Chesapeake Bay, sometimes the stream starts to solve its own problems without bulldozing it and taking all the life out. So I think we do need to reform the whole MS4 permit system. And I don't think you can talk about stream restoration as being so great just because it's cheaper. It may be cheaper in money. It may be easier politically because you get to dole out a lot of great pork to people who like to do constructions, but it's not cheaper for the environment. If you want to live up to your name, look at what's going on upstreams. It's not just about green streets. It's about conservation landscaping. It's about not allowing developers to pave everything over. And basically, yeah, do fewer of them, pause, do them right, and don't just treat them as an engineering project. They are so much more than that. And thank you for those who spoke who know even much more than I do. I would love to. I'm honored to meet you. Okay.
Marion, appreciate those comments. And thanks for your comment about there might be a will or folks might want to connect after this. So the folks that are planning this will take that under consideration. I appreciate your comments, Marion. All right, next up is Edna Miller. And Edna, I think, is joining us only by phone. So Ryan's going to unmute her and we'll wait until she comes online.
Hello.
Yeah,
can you hear me?
We can hear you. Yeah, go ahead and just state your name for the record and then the floor is yours.
Thank you very much. My name is Edna Miller, a resident for almost 20 years in Montgomery County. Here are my points about stream restorations with questions raised about MDE and their intent in the MS4 permit. Stream restoration appears as one of the many choices found in the Maryland Department of the Environment MS4 permit. Municipalities choose these projects from the permit's categories and identify their selected list in the financial assurance plan. The objective of the MS4 permit claims to reduce nutrients and sediments and stormwater runoff from reaching the Chesapeake Bay. The following questions spread out around the issues I have with MDE MS4 permit category stream restoration as a convoluted choice. Where did MDE require municipalities provide public notice with the permit for MS4 projects? Did MDE intend the public should understand the real function of each stream restoration project? Why did MDE prioritize the selection of stream restorations by giving the most credits to municipalities as an incentive to select it often? Why did MDA create the most disproportionate usage of the stream restoration by giving it the most credits above all other permit categories? Did MDE intend stream restoration to cover the blame of destroying forested stream canopies beds, and buffers as directed by site plans and the contracted scope of work? Why did MDE use the label stream restoration instead of its real activity, creating stormwater culverts? Why has MDE hidden from the public eye that stream restorations will change stormwater drainage? Why did MDE require municipalities complete financial assurance plans with millions guaranteed in advance for MS4 permits, knowing stream restorations were the largest part for selected projects? Why did MDE promote stream restorations to serve the goal of clearing up the Chesapeake Bay? Why has MDE made no distinction between upland and downstream locations for stream restorations? Why did MDE require monitoring of stream outflow from completed stream restoration projects based only on nutrients and sediments to evaluate their reductions? Where is the evidence that MDE monitors water flow from chemicals discharged into the streams from septic systems, coal or garbage burning power plants, farms, boats, cars, trains, buses, trucks, and airplanes? Why did MDE choose one concept fits all by pushing stream restorations to clean up the Chesapeake Bay? Where is the evidence from MDE to prove the Chesapeake Bay improved? And by what percentage after 10 years of industrialized destruction of stream beds and buffers while endorsing stream restorations? Did MDE ever consider treating the source of stormwater runoff contaminants at the impervious site before stormwater runoff exacerbates velocity into streams? Did MDE ever consider the other categories in the permit to evenly distribute the credits currently given to stream restoration projects and eliminate the stream category entirely? I hope MDE will respond to these stream restoration issues raised in my questions and support public notice as part of the MDE MS4 permit for all municipalities and their MS4 projects. Establish proactive carbon sequestration goals with climate action planners in Montgomery County. Develop better preservation practices for forested stream canopies, forested stream beds and buffers, and remove the category stream restoration from the MS4 permit. Distribute the credits evenly to remaining permit categories to get the job of stormwater management done for less money and without destroying what remains of forested stream ecosystems. Thank you for this opportunity to speak.
I really appreciate those comments, and thanks for joining us. We could hear you loud and clear, and really appreciate those. And you were right on time, so thanks a lot. And I know there are a lot of state folks on the line too. All right, the last person who registered online is Ken Bauer, so we'll wait for him to be unmuted.
Hi, can you hear me?
We can hear you, Ken. Yeah, go ahead. Just state your name for the record, and then the floor is yours.
Okay, thank you. My name is Ken Bauer. I'm speaking on behalf of the Coalition to Prevent Stream Destruction. We all agree that we value our streams and want to protect our streams. What we disagree on is how best to protect our streams. The Coalition sent a letter to Executive Elrich saying that based on the evidence, both our observations and the scientific literature, it is time for a common sense pause on stream restorations until an analysis can be done on their total environmental impact compared to out-of-stream stormwater control practices. We have never said do nothing. Some people think that ours is an outlier position, but nothing could be further from the truth. Our 20 organizations representing hundreds of people and over 140 individual signatories represent a diverse cross-section of the county. Among the signatory organizations are West Montgomery County Citizens Association, Ashton Pond Community Association, Cedar Lane Unitarian Universalist Church Environmental Justice Ministry, Cloverly Civic Association, Coquitlam Run Citizens Association, Conservation Montgomery, Eyes of Paintbranch, Friends of 10 Mile Creek and Little Seneca Reservoir, Friends of the Earth, Glen Echo Heights Citizens Association, Glenmont Forest Neighborhood Citizens Association, Greater Shady Grove Civic Alliance, Maryland Native Plant Society, Montgomery Countryside Alliance, Old Growth Forest Network, Potomac Chase Estates Citizens Association, Sugarloaf Citizens Association, the Town of Glen Echo, and West Laurel Civic Association. Individual signatories include a co-founder of the Watts Branch Watershed Alliance, a founder of the National League of Conservation Voters, a former conservation advocate of Audubon Natural Society, a member of Little Falls Watershed Alliance, the president of Seneca Creek Watershed Partners, and many, many more. I'm pleased that DEP has initiated these webinars, and I believe it is because of the groundswell calling for a reevaluation of the need for stream restorations. My experience in presenting to elected officials and others is that the more people see the impact of stream restorations, the more they question their use. One reason is that they don't address the root cause of stream bank erosion, which is stormwater fire hosing into streams from impervious surfaces like roads and roofs. Another reason is that stream restorations result in the loss of forested areas. And in the middle of a climate emergency, we need all the forest land we can save. At the recent Climate Change Summit, global leaders have committed to halt deforestation. Our own climate action plan says we have to retain our forests. But for the last MS4 permit, the county has done stream restorations along 30,000 feet of streams, which deforested well over 500,000 square feet of forest. A recent headline in the Post said, University of Maryland pauses housing project after uproar over deforestation. Likewise, an uproar over deforestation is now happening in Montgomery County, and if it is not being heard now, it will surely be heard in the next election. I appreciate the opportunity to help guide the content of the remaining webinars. What we primarily need are roundtable discussions, not lectures. And we need to hear from DEP that they are open to change. We don't want to simply hear from DEP that they are right and we are wrong. If the remaining webinars are just greenwashing lectures from DEP, then these sessions will only be a biased exercise in telling only one side of the stream restoration story, not the whole story, not the inconvenient truth that stream restorations don't actually restore streams, either physically or biologically. Unlike in the past, we don't want one-way lectures on why DEP thinks stream restoration should be done, end of story. To hear DEP say, as they have in the past, that stream restorations are just one tool in a toolkit is not good enough, or that stream restorations are needed to stop the bleeding. That is simply misleading. First, participants need to be given equal time in these next webinars. For the next webinar, I suggest up to a 30-minute presentation for DEP for all their topics. Then the same amount of time should be given for presentations by anyone else. After that, the focus of the remaining webinars should exclusively be roundtable discussions among all participants on the policy of using stream restorations versus out-of-stream stormwater control projects. Discussions should include, for example, 1, should we have a common sense pause on stream restorations? 2, where to best control stormwater that has no impact on natural areas? 3, are we willing to pay more to save our natural areas? Low cost should not be the deciding factor. 4, what should be the policy and decision-making process to select stream restorations versus upland projects? 5, should DEP recommend to MDE that future MS4 permit credit allocations be changed? 6, what was the arrangement for a stream restoration on Glenstone, which is private property? And 7, how to de-silo to coordinate and cooperate among all departments and jurisdictions. Because stormwater doesn't respect department or political boundaries, the roundtable should include all stakeholders, including, for example, the County Executive's Office, DEP, MCDOT, DPS, Parks, Montgomery County Public Schools, WSSC, State Highway Administration, private property owners, representatives from the cities of Gaithersburg, Rockville, and Tacoma Park, community groups, and environmental groups such as ours. We all need to be around the table to discuss all the issues and policies, not just hear one-sided lectures. Thank you.
Thanks so much, Ken. I really appreciate those comments and very organized. And we hear you loud and clear on the format and the back and forth that's needed throughout. And I will say, I won't steal anyone's thunder, but the planning committee was kind of thinking about that. Thank you. All right, that's all the pre-registered speakers. And as I said, we can make a call now from the floor for folks that would like 5 minutes to speak with the group and on the record. So just on Zoom, I see 2 folks have already done this. Go ahead and raise your hand. And we'll call on you. And then Ryan, if you don't mind, for anybody that's on the phone, if unmuting, and that way folks that are on the phone can also volunteer if they'd like. And I'll just pause for a minute. So I've got Mark, David, and Patty, and we'll go in that order and make sure we get everyone. And I think we have enough time because this goes until 8:30, and we just have minor closing remarks at the end.
Okay.
Right, sorry to interrupt you, Mark. I wanted to make sure if there was anybody that was phone only, that they could say they want to say a few words. Okay. All right.
Yeah.
Okay.
My name is Amy Bennett. Can you hear me?
Yes, I can.
Okay. I would also like to speak.
Okay. Very good.
Thank you.
Great. Thank you. Okay. So we've got Mark, David, Patty, and then Amy. Okay.
More.
Molly. Okay. Okay.
Okay. This is Mark Emley. I would like to start by bringing in a very important piece of science that hasn't been looked at by this presentation or so forth as a biologist, PhD and all that. It turns out your native ecosystem of many species of plants in the forest right next to the stream have different root niches. And as a result, some way down, some up, as a result, they hold 3 times as much water and release it slowly over several days. So that's a very important component of stormwater prevention. Then the second thing, of course, is listen to the science. In other words, what's going wrong with all these stream restoration projects and it should be a requirement, including in the MS4 permit, is that you actually have to go there and not just bring in the bulldozers, but you have to go and research what the biological diversity is and what the actual impact would be. And as we can say, in some dead zones, stream restoration makes sense. But we have found in most cases that in reality, much more is lost to control stormwater runoff than is gained. And basically, the MS4 permit was first developed the way it is now with the Clean Water Act because of people who lived down by the water, down by the ocean. And they were the ones that weren't thinking about headwaters and upstream like Montgomery County. So I would, I think it's very important to actually, and I have found it was I was a park ranger with Maryland National Capital Parks and Planning, is that when you go to landowners that live right next to parks and planning land, and there's things they can do like controlling some invasives and so forth, they actually want to help. 4 out of 5 actually want to do the right thing and keep the riparian habitat and so forth. And in case anybody in this room doesn't know it, the state of Maryland passed a law, which took effect October 1st, that no one can make you have a lawn anymore. That's the law. The law is now on our side, including homeowners associations. They cannot make you have a lawn. Now, you do, of course, have to make them look good. And I have gone around through several cities where they had their own ordinances, and they, like at Hyattsville, Mount Rainier, and College Park, there are areas where almost half the houses no longer have lawns. And unlike what the opponents were afraid of, no, they look good. They all look good. And secondly, the real estate value has not gone down, which is what the real estate people were afraid of. So I want everybody to be aware that if you want, there's no longer any problem, no matter where you are, of converting your lawn to a natural area ecosystem. And the amount of work is so much less than mowing. You do have to do some weeding, as we've got a lot of weed warriors in the room here, but it's much less work. Typically, the first year or two is the most work, and then after 5, like my house where I live, it's been 20 years without a lawn, and the amount of work I do to remove some invasives running in, like some birds flew overhead and dropped some English ivy berries, is so little compared to what it would have been to mow. I'm also representing the Natural Places Committee for the Maryland chapter of the Sierra Club, and we would like everybody to communicate with us and contribute what you would like to do to find good alternatives to stormwater runoff. And of course, the most important thing is, and homeowners will agree to this, where they're next to a stream, to restore riparian habitat. And again, a complex system of native plants so that they have different root niches. And that holds the water really well and supports many species of birds and insects and that sort of thing. So thank you all.
No, thanks so much, Mark. You had 30 more seconds, but it sounded like you were wrapping up. Is that everything?
Yeah, thank you. So everybody, please send me, well, let's get together and have a working group working together on this, and not only stopping the so-called, in quotes, stream restoration, but actually do a better job at real restoration of streams, removing the invasives and getting compensation with the tree planting for saving trees. All development, no forest should be cut down. There's one area where no developer is allowed to, I remember in Montgomery County, I'm not sure where, to cut down any forests.
No, thanks so much, Mark. And I forgot to ask, you're a resident of Montgomery County. I'll do that at the beginning for the rest of the folks.
My daughter lives in Hyattsville, so I'm there a lot of time, and I've been very active in Montgomery County, and I'm with the Natural Places Committee of the Maryland chapter of the Sierra Club. So I work in all the counties, including Montgomery.
Very good. And for the remaining folks that we had here, David, Patty, Amy, and Molly, and it looks like Deborah has raised your hand. I will be asking if you're a resident of Montgomery County to be able to give remarks on the record. So David, you're up next. And just state your name, and then are you a resident of Montgomery County?
Thank you. I'm David Dunbar, a resident of Montgomery County and a member of Eyes of Paint Branch.
Great.
Thank you for convening these sessions on stream restoration, and particularly for this listening session. We applaud this very positive approach. I want to share with you some of my experiences with stream restoration projects and to offer a few suggestions on what we would like to see in the remaining 3 sessions on stream restoration. So when I first got started in all of this more than 3 decades ago, I was full of enthusiasm for get your feet wet projects to fix the streams in the Paint Branch watershed. While the professional environmental community welcomed the formation of our watershed group, I very quickly learned that those who do this for a living had no interest whatsoever in volunteer-run stream restoration projects, and for a host of good reasons. Over the years, we learned from these environmental professionals, and they helped us navigate through the processes of defining and implementing protective programs for the Paint Branch watershed. These advisors also taught us to be wary of any in-stream activities, including stream restorations. I have pictures of the Paint Branch being pumped through a pipe around a stream restoration site. What used to be a wild trout stream, albeit degraded, was dry as a bone, laden with construction equipment, albeit low impact equipment, and devoid of life. I get knots in my stomach just thinking about it. What happened to the biological life that was in that section of the stream that was pumped through the pipe? And what are the consequences to environmental life downstream? I've seen improvements in the appearance and physical characteristics of a stream as a result of restoration activities, but will the life in this section of the stream ever return to the pre-restoration levels, let alone improve? Recently, you've received material that questions the benefit to harm ratio of stream restorations. We see this material as fact-based, detailed, well-researched and documented, and based on multiple restorations at different locations. It makes a very strong case against stream restorations. So where do we go from here? In my experience, DEP has long been about data. Consequently, we ask, what does DEP's data show about the reach of the paint branch that I just mentioned after restoration? Have the physical and biological conditions changed as a result of this restoration? What trends are projected for the future? The same questions could be asked about other reaches of the paint branch as well. We need these answers. With only a slight variation to the famous quote from the movie Jerry Maguire, show me the biological improvement. The same processes could also be applied to other streams throughout the county. It is incumbent upon the proponents of stream restoration to state the positive benefits in a factual, detailed, well-researched and documented account based on multiple restorations at different locations. Also, scientific publications that substantiate the benefits should also be included. But please, oh please, the remaining 3 sessions should not be one presentation after another on the how and why as to stream restorations being done the way they are done here. While some of this is certainly needed, the time allocated for this should be limited, such as 1 session at most. The 5 minutes available in this session this evening is just not enough for stakeholders to elaborate on their concerns. We need more time in subsequent sessions to elaborate in more detail. We need time for frank and open discussion of the relevant issues, both pro and con. We need to talk about root causes rather than symptoms, and about other tools in the toolbox. Another approach would be to charter a stream restoration working group to collect and analyze the relevant data on Montgomery County stream restoration projects, summarize the facts and report out on the findings and recommendations at subsequent sessions. Look, we're all in this together, and I'm sure we share many common objectives. Let's all keep an open mind and work together to define an approach that provides a positive way ahead for Montgomery County streams. Thank you for the opportunity to speak.
Thanks so much for those comments, David. Really appreciate it. All right, we do want to leave time for everyone else. So Patty, you're up next. You can come off mute. And I just want to ask if you're a resident of Montgomery County before you get started.
Thank you. Yes, I've been a resident of Montgomery County for more than 50 years. So I think it qualifies. That qualifies.
Yeah, thank you. Go ahead and state your name and then the floor is yours.
So my name is Patty McGrath. I live in Potomac. And I want to echo what Lauren Hubbard and Lynn Parsons mentioned, also Evelyn and Ken, about the contradiction in engineering streams, because I refuse to call these operations restorations. They're not restoring any. They're destroying forest as far as I can see. And in that walkthrough that we did, Lynn was able to point out dozens of invasive species that were throughout all of the replanted area of a stream restoration operation that was done. And then I listened to the debate in the Gaithersburg, I guess the city council, they call it, on a project that was going to be done in Gaithersburg that was approved, that will remove, if it hasn't done it already, 3.14 acres of mature trees. Now, I'm going with the code red on, I know we have a climate emergency, and some of the trees identified in that area that will be bulldozed were over 100 years old. All of them were at least 50 years old because it hadn't been touched since 1979. And the testimony that was given, as far as I could see, was really not very honest, because engineers testifying said this little area that ended up being a walkway, they represented that as the stream. And they said, you see all these trees on the side? They grew and covered the stream since 1979, which was complete misrepresentation. And so I have to wonder if the stream engineers have to do that in order to have people believe that something is going to be better after they're finished removing mature tree cover. We cannot survive the climate emergency that's going to continue getting worse without us adding to it getting worse if we allow the destruction of mature forest area, period. We have to find a better way to control stormwater, and there are better ways. And I think it's a little bit too glib for people to say, it's 10 times more expensive to have green streets and to do this kind of water management. I would like to see proof, and I would like to actually, in round table, talk about realistic ways of reducing stormwater at the source. Thank you.
Great, thanks so much, Patty. Really appreciate those comments. All right, next, Amy. I think you were phone only. If you're still here, I think it was Amy Bennett. Give her a second to come off mute.
I said this is Amy Bennett, but I am not a Montgomery County resident.
Oh, okay. All right, well, maybe we can hear from you in future webinars if that's all right. Thanks, Amy. Okay, Molly, I think you are next. And just 1 second, we still can't hear you. I think they're taking you off mute.
My name is Molly Hauk. I live in Kensington, and I'm a member of the Cedar Lane Unitarian Universalist Environmental Justice Ministry. And I've lived in Montgomery County for about 40 years. I appreciate you having these workshops and hearing all points of view. And I have to say, it looks as though it's a very divided opinion here, half and half, half for, half against. I oppose stream restorations. First of all, stream restorations don't restore streams either physically or biologically. They import foreign material and destroy riparian ecosystems. This complex web of nature can't be recreated by replanting some trees. Second, stream restorations don't address the root cause of stream bank erosion. The root cause is stormwater into streams from impervious surfaces such as roofs and roads. The stormwater must be controlled before it can enter our streams. Our few remaining natural areas should be protected even if they aren't in pristine condition. Stormwater control should be done by non-destructive practices outside of streams. We should stop talking about the cheapest and quickest way to control stormwater and instead, one, talk about how to handle stormwater while also protecting our local environment. And two, how to pay for doing the right thing rather than the cheapest or easiest thing. I and many other people call for one, a common sense temporary pause in stream restoration projects. And two, a temporary pause in the inclusion of stream restoration projects in the new MS4 permits and the county's Design Build Clean Water Montgomery Program, RFP. And three, the initiation of dialogue among all stakeholders to discuss the relevant issues. Thank you for letting me speak.
Thanks so much, Molly. I really appreciate it.
I also want to say there's something wrong with the sign up. I filled out the form twice. I thought I had signed up. I don't know what happened.
Oh, I'm so sorry about that, Molly. Thanks for letting us know. And thanks so much for those comments. We really appreciate your thoughts here. Okay, we have time definitely. And so I see Deborah and Carolyn. So Deborah, if you'll come off mute.
Hi, can you hear me?
I can, and just if you're a resident of Montgomery County, and then just state your name and the floor is yours.
I'm a resident of Montgomery County. My name is Debbie Sarabia. I'm the former president of Seneca Creek Watershed Partners and still an active member. A couple of things I heard from the top of this discussion that I thought were important was that each stream restoration is unique, that upstream controls are of significant importance, and that stream restoration is cheaper than other methods to meet the MS4 permit requirements. and that the impacts of stream restoration are temporary. So I wanted to comment on those. First of all, probably the one that most important to me is that the stream restorations that I've observed are not temporary impacts. They are intended to permanently convert a habitat from in one case, from a savanna woodland to a wetland. And in another case, as another caller mentioned, the complete removal of 3.1 acres of mature forest in a floodplain, the entire riparian floodplain. I think what I want to see, what is important here is that we begin to identify and protect our important ecological areas rather than taking the approach that focuses only on the water quality and taking an engineering approach. As I understand it, the engineering firms don't have much ecological knowledge or input. I know that the handbook used to design stream restorations is almost strictly engineering. The other thing is that, yeah, I am all for creating habitat. I'm not for replacing habitat. I think we say, I've heard people say, well, it's a trade-off. Well, trading a mature forest for a wetland, yes, those are both important ecosystems, but is that the right thing to do? I would say no. I would say no. I mean, we can argue maybe we shouldn't have been draining wetlands in the first place, but okay, that's another story. Okay, well, we have currently a project underway in Gaithersburg. Is the one I mentioned is, that's an old forest. It's an old forest. I led a native plant rescue there in June, and we found quite a significant array of native plants. I have wandered and walked many, many riparian areas in our county, and that one was special. That was special. It's gone, or it's not gone yet, but they're in the process of removing it forever. Okay, so someone else also mentioned the climate issue. Okay, let's look at that. The mature forest. I mean, what are we talking here? 70 to 100 metric tons of carbon sequestration per acre. So the three acre forest, did we just throw away 300 metric tons of carbon and sent it off into the air? That was not wise. I'm hearing also kind of a new thing that one of the other speakers mentioned, that we may not need to do upstream controls after all. I think we can have stable streams, without doing upstream controls. That's completely runs counter to everything that every stormwater program stands for. We have to maintain those and expand on those upstream controls. We need to put a much greater emphasis, even if they are more expensive. I think most residents, has anybody asked, do you guys want to trade your forest for some upstream controls? So we should.
I just did want to say it's about 15 seconds, but feel free to just.
Okay. Let me just say then, I would like to see the county emphasize that we look at the science, all aspects of all the impacts, not just the nitrogen, the phosphorus, and the sediment, because there's even debate whether that's actually called, if we're actually getting uplift. And I want to see appropriate methods, since each one of these projects is supposed to be unique. It's not a one size fits all. Okay, thank you so much for the forum. Appreciate it.
Thank you very much. And I hope I didn't rush you too much at the end.
Okay, no problem, my bad. Okay.
I appreciate all the comments. Thank you. Carolyn Knight, you're up next. And then once you come off mute, I just, and we can't hear you quite yet. I think they're still taking you off mute. I just want to ask if you're a Montgomery County resident. Okay, looks like you're good to go now. And then just state your name and then the floor is yours.
I'm Carolyn Knight. I am a resident of Olney, and I live in a community. Olney is upstream. We live on a hill, and all of us. So the stormwater for us in the streams that border my community do not come from often more than a football field away. And there has been some effort to control upstream runoff with all the new construction, with any new construction, but there hasn't been much done with the existing construction in Olney that's been here for a while. So there's still parking lots and roofs that have no mitigation at all. I would certainly support more pressure on homeowners to use rain barrels and conservation landscaping and rain gardens. I'm the president of our homeowners association. I don't have a lot of control of that, and we do not prohibit those sorts of activities. We do not require that anybody have a lawn, but there isn't a lot of, other than the, anything that can be done. I know there are tax credits, but it's something that doesn't filter down to a lot of residents. So any assistance for homeowners associations to really get the word out. We did apply to the Sustainable Maryland 2 years ago to be one of their projects, but they lost their funding, and we didn't make, so not only did we not make the cut, nobody got any of those projects that year, but more projects like that would work intensively with our community would be very helpful. We have 3 streams in our wooded parcels. They are quite degraded, and there are 2 things that I don't think that have been talked about very much at all, actually, and one is the deer. The trees that are there are aging and dying naturally because, and there are no new trees growing because the deer are removing all of the saplings that are native. We don't have any reasonable way to fence off enough area or any area without a considerable expense to our homeowners to protect those areas. And the other is that we've lost a lot of trees, many trees, and we're spending a lot of money taking down trees that were lost to the emerald ash borer. We have a lot of ash trees and they're all dead now. So there is degradation. We have streams that are quite serpentine and natural, except that they're quite channelized. So there is no natural floodplain remaining around these streams so that the water stays only in the channel, continues to erode, moves very quickly out of the area, and none of it stays behind, where it can be absorbed even an hour. So raising the bed, and we have been approached by 2 companies, and I have personally walked the woods with representatives of each company, and one has applied to the RFP. So we have been waiting since the spring and early summer to find out if those projects go forward. My board has taken a neutral stand on this at this point. It's very hard for many of us. I've participated in a number of forums, but it's very hard for an HOA board to get up to speed. And we've had no direct communication with DEP. But anything that can be done for some of these things, again, like controlling the deer and helping some of the trees grow. But our streams are quite degraded, and we are not far downstream. We are just a few blocks from the origin of the water that ends up in our streams. Thank you.
Carolyn, thank you for that insight. I really appreciate that perspective. All right, we have about 9 minutes left, and a lot of the speakers did a good wrap up at the end. So I just wanted to quickly touch on a couple of major themes that I heard, and I was taking furious notes. And of course, we recorded this, and this will be on the website soon. I heard that you all care and we all want the best science to implement the best practices, most cost effective in the best way possible, right? So we're all on the same page. But I heard communication with each other, with the state and with the county is really important, and the contractors and other parties. And we really care about stream restoration and tree removal, and we care about the climate and the future. We care about things looking good and not just looking good, but then being the native plants, not the invasive plants. And we care about maintenance and maybe not just always the most expensive solution, but we're able, I heard from you all that investing in the right solutions would be well worth it. And then just, again, communicating what's going on back and forth. And so this forum is meant to do that. So hopefully it got one step further toward that. We heard about siting and habitat and also the permit and the driving and the credits and things like that. And so maybe a little bit more information on those topics. So those are some of the things that I heard from you all. And this session was really to hear from you all to build out the next webinar sessions. And we heard some things about format and letting you all have a little bit more of the time and making sure that we're having a dialogue. So those were the things that I heard. Thank you guys again for all of your time. I really appreciated, moderating and listening. Sometimes I didn't watch the clock because I was so interested in what you all were saying. So with that, I wanted to turn it over to Amy. I did see, sorry, one more hand. So Chris, we could maybe do a 2-minute if you'd like. I did want to hand it over to our DEP to round out the session. So Chris, are you a resident of Montgomery County? And then maybe a 2-minute recap, if that's all right.
Hi, Chris Victoria here. Yes, I am a resident of Montgomery County. I don't need 2 minutes. Just in your summary, Sadie, one thing I did want to point out that I heard an awful lot of discussion about the need to work at the top of these watersheds to do upstream controls of stormwater to my interpretation of that would be to find opportunities to manage it on site before it gets into the stream channels and onto the floodplains where it causes the degradation. So I just wanted to clarify that. I heard several comments here tonight about that. So just thought I'd point that out, and that's all I have to say. And I do appreciate very much DEP and you and everyone organizing this listening session and these subsequent sessions afterwards. Thanks.
Well, thank you, Chris. I really appreciate that. That was an important theme and I did miss that. With that, I'd like to turn it over to Amy Stevens. She's the Managing Planning and Outreach Monitoring Manager for Planning and Outreach Monitoring Section at the Watershed Restoration Division for Montgomery County's Department of Environmental Protection, and she'll take us home. Thank you.
Thank you, Sadie. So with Thanksgiving a week away, I wanted to express my gratitude tonight and close out this presentation. Thank you to everyone that's participated. And if you feel comfortable, can you please turn on your video so we can all see who is here joining us tonight and who is participating in this event. So again, thank you to everyone that every resident that was interested, every practitioner that joined us today. We had 15 speakers actually with our last speaker who gave their time tonight, showing us their passion and expressing their views. Thank you, Sadie and the Chesapeake Bay Trust for giving us your time tonight to moderate our discussions. And thank you to everybody on the DEP staff team who have worked together to bring you this webinar series and our future webinar series. So I wanted to just give a quote from Terry Tempest Williams, which is, most of all, difference of opinions are opportunities for learning. So tonight we heard many opinions and comments. We heard you say you want more opportunities for dialogue with us, roundtables and stakeholders discussions. Where we will use your comments tonight to refine and guide the topics and the format for the next webinars. We truly appreciate the opportunity to listen to you and to learn from you. And we will continue to accept comments on this topic for the next week until November 24th. And Ryan, if you could put up the closing slide, because comments can be sent in to me with my email address. You can see it up there on screen, and we'll give you all an opportunity to jot that down. Continue to send us comments through the end of, through next week, November 24th. And we will also incorporate them as we move forward with our next webinars. So our next webinar series are, the next one is in January 12th and February 16th and March 9th. We will begin to post information on those webinars as we begin to develop how we're going to format them. We will also have a recording of tonight's webinar available on our My Green Montgomery website, as well as on our YouTube channel. So stay tuned. We'll also work on the registration process and try to make that more clear the next time around, so you all can join us. So again, in closing, thank you to everyone who expressed their opinion. Thank you for those of us that are here. We really enjoyed listening to you. I hope you all can join us again on January 12th, and good night and be well. Thank you.